Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be doing a Death Guard painting tutorial. I'm incredibly hyped to show you guys this Death Guard Plague Marine that I've been working on for a little while. And it all starts with just basic Citadel paint colors and just a little bit of time. We're going to go ahead and spray this sucker down with Plague Marine Green. And we're going to give our base a nice technical of Strickland Mud. And we're going to go over it with a little bit of that Mortarion Grime, just to give it a little bit more of a nasty, kind of grungy, gross kind of aesthetic to it. And we're going to jump right in. This is my narration over, so I'm just going to be trying to chasing the video I'm watching ahead of me. And yeah, we're just going to, get that base primed up and ready to go for when we want to attach them on there to make painting just a little bit easier. But we're going to take our very large brush, the biggest hairbrush we can, just because it holds a lot of that color, and just splash that sucker. Let it pull up, let it get nasty, pull up in some areas. It's going to really create those green little hues in the mud, exactly where these guys would be standing, or kind of let seeps off of them as they, move up the battleground, which is really on par for their lore. Next, we're going to go with our all-around shade of Agrax Earthshade. I start with this as my base tone color, so the Death Guard Green kind of just lays the land down, and then from here we just go and layer it up with as much of the Agrax Earthshade as you want. We're going to be doing another coat of this later to really bring down all of the detailed colors we do later, so just give it a rip and really get that base tone down. Little once over what he should look like afterwards. We're going to be moving on to our next large color set, which is Vorkbak Red. This is going to be on the loincloth. I like the red. It kind of offsets the green a little bit at naturally, competing colors that look really well with each other. And when you do hit it with a nice wash, it kind of just brings down that bright, red color. Just blends into the model well. I'm sure you can go for any type of like orange or maybe yellow tabard that would work just as well, but I feel the red kind of fits my vibe a little bit more. After that's done, we're going to continue with our heavy base coats, and that's going to be our skin tones. This we're really going to start diving into a little bit more of the detail-oriented, section of the model. And when doing so, we're going to use the help of contrast and with the help of shades there to really just bring out that skin tone, make it as nasty as possible. So we're just going to hit all those tubes there. Just a nice even 1 to 2 coats. Don't mind my head there. Again, still getting the camera angle right, but working my way up. But all those little, tubes that I would assume are like some type of growth or intestine or something nasty coming out of his power pack, or weapons or armor of his bloated, nasty Death Guard body there. We're just going to hit all those with a basic skin tone and move on to the shades and contrasts. It's that Gulliman Flesh there. I think it just gives it a better base skin tone before you put the Reikland Fleshshade over there. Makes it look a little bit more living, and then the Reikland Flesh tone really just kind of gets in the recesses, gives it that pink color that you want to see from, the joints and veins and stuff, or where metal might be protruding from, or something like that. Don't forget the little tubes and stuff and intestines and stuff coming out of his legs. These guys are full of tentacles, and often you'll have to go over the model and realize you missed one here or there. It's very normal with working with Death Guard, I've discovered since working on the couple guys that I own at this point. The nice part about working on a Death Guard model is that any overspill with colors really just kind of makes it better. So I feel in these early stages, the dirtier you are, the better. You know, take that with a grain of salt. Of course, you don't want the red from the loincloth getting on his armor. That's a little different. But any of that, you know, skin tone, orange and pinkiness leaking onto the armor itself doesn't look half bad when the finished product comes out at the end. So here we're just going to take a heavy helping of Reikland Fleshshade and just gloss it over all of those, you know, exposed skin colors. We'll be moving on to the next step. Try to be nice and light on the brush here when I tack these guys to the little painting block I have there. It's really easy with priming because I don't want to get my paint handle all primed up and gunked up, but you know, it's a double-edged sword. You try to work quickly to get them mounted onto the paint handle, or the base to get on the paint handle, but you don't want to spray it. It makes it all nasty. So at any point you could really kind of drop this guy on there. I just choose to do it later in the painting process. Next step, we're going to go ahead and start hitting those bones. Protruding bones are, again, another common thing found in all the Death Guard. They are very chaotic when it comes to all the ornaments and details that you can find on a Plague Marine. So just go ahead, be thorough, make sure you hit all those spots. I'm just kind of highlighting the ones that I know of, and then just showing you a little bit of footage of some fine painting using a more finer tipped brush to, you know, really get that color all over that model part and, you know, get it ready for the really final wash that brings that bone hue out, which is another round of Agrax Earthshade later in the model. Nice, making sure I'm accounting for all of the bones before we get on to the next step, which is the famous Chaos Trim. Any Chaos Army knows there is no shortage of trim on these guys, so take your time, pick out all those spots. I like to do the legs first and work my way up just so I could be as thorough as possible, but in this demonstration I'm just kind of tagging all the parts I know need the trim just for, you know, viewer show. Just, you know, a little overspill here and there won't hurt. If anything, it kind of makes it a little cooler, but I tend to go a little bit heavy on the metallics here because I like that contrast between the really flat matte green to the really high shines of the shoulder panels and such. So as you see, I got the power pack all painted up pretty heavily and all the trim and that, you know, kind of guard that goes over his face. Didn't really touch the head aside from the spike, but, you know, the knees and all that stuff gets a nice helping of that gold color there. Next really brings the aspect of the Death Guard that I kind of think is pretty neat. They traditionally have red lenses, but I think like a yellow looks pretty cool. So I use the Averland Sunset just to do a quick swipe over the lenses. I believe these are Mark II style helmets. Believe so. Mark IV maybe, because of the way that the face guard looks. But you know, they're far from their original features there. So a nice fine swipe of the lenses there. Just 1 to 2 coats should be enough, and we're going to hit it with a shade again, so you know, a little bit of grime will fall into the recesses and cover up any of the faint yellow if you didn't hit it quite good enough. but this gives you an opportunity to then do a little bit of an edge highlight over those eye lenses as well. So you'll see me take a little bit of that Death Guard green that hasn't been shaded over yet and just kind of go over a little bit of the overspill there, but it also kind of works as a little highlight on the shield or the face guard as well. So looking awesome, giving it a little bit more life. Aside from the gun, you could easily stop here, call it a day. But of course, we're gonna keep going, and that's gonna be doing all like the little droppings and ooze and nastiness. So take some really, nasty colors. I like the orange and yellow there, and kind of bring it to with a brown to kind of bring out some like plague nastiness, kind of bring it to a gross level. As you see, there's my mixtures there. And, phlegm colors, maybe some greens that are more, brighter in nature. Just pick your poison, literally, and start throwing that on there. All the little drips and drops and, leaks from his armor panels. God only knows what's going on underneath that thing. So just go crazy, have fun with it, find some nasty colors, make some gross combinations, and it'll really look awesome at the end. Some of these locations might be hard to miss. Again, what's nice about these guys is you can go back at any stage and do some touch up, whether they're really light colors or super dark colors. You hit them with additional washes. The mismatch, faded nature of the armor panels there, the corrosion that you could toss over anything. It leaves a lot of room for potential errors, but a lot of, happy mistakes, one would say. So just account for all those little drips and drops there. I switched over to the yellow color. I'm just kind of pointing out some areas I think I'm going to hit the yellow, but, just interchangeable. And here's that all completed. All the little boils, drips, and nastiness. Could probably even hit these with a little bit of, like, corrosion of some sort, like a liquid corrosion. You never know what these guys got going on, so just play with it as you will. Little Rinox Hide on the palette here. You always hear about Nurgle's Garden. It's life and decay in a constant cycle. So I see this massive protruding bone of some sort, maybe out of the shoulder panel there, but I decided let's make this like a tree. A little bit of a artistic, reminiscence I had of the garden there. I don't know if that's the correct term, but I figured let's shape it up a little bit. Let's make it a little different. This guy doesn't just have bones coming out of him. This guy has a whole ass tree coming out of his shoulder, and it's also equally decayed, but it is also life, which kind of is Nurgle's whole thing there. So, a few layers of Rinox Hide there to get that evenly base coated with a really nice highlight over top of a lighter brown color. Just an easy dry brush, give it a little bit more definition. And we're gonna hit that with a green wash later, you'll see. And it's quite subtle, but if you look hard enough, it's there. And there's the tree there, coming out of his shoulder. Ogryn camo for the little face coming out of his knee. These guys are full of little creatures coming out of all over the place. They usually come with faces and teeth and tongues and stuff, so these guys no different. He's got one coming out of his knee there, so we're gonna give his little partner in crime a little bit more definition, and that's just with an easy dry brush of a highlight green. Don't have to go too crazy about the edges. It kind of just all falls together once you do the wash at the end. Very easy step, just gives it a little bit more to look at. Continuing with our accessories here, he's got a couple grenades hanging off of his belt, so we're just going to use some pure Rinox Hide and just hit those. Next, after this, we're going to go and hit some black tubes. There's just a little accent color that you could put on the backpack. Just kind of breaks up a little bit of that metallic and green. You know, he's got some rubber tubes in there of some sort. We'll revisit the black color later, but this is a good time to pick it out if you just need, you know, some small accomplishments while you're doing your painting session. Iron Rack skin is a really awesome pale skin used for a lot of dead people or something like that, or very pale skin complexions like in the Night Lords or the Racks for the Drukhari. I've noticed the Death Guard have a lot of grenades made out of heads. I can't imagine those people are still alive, so we're going to go ahead and take some of this Iron Rack skin and just give this head a very pale, kind of drained complexion. Although I will hit it with some blood later, and I almost wish I didn't, but we're just gonna let this ride. I'd say, if you had to take my advice, is to, once we get it washed and cleaned up, leave it at that. The blood doesn't really fit the skin tone as it's already drained, but you know, if you want to add a little bit more grossness to your model's blood, especially Chaos, they go hand in hand. Visiting my absolutely annihilated Khorne Red. Funny, this is one of the first pots of paint that I've ever purchased outside of the starter kit, and it's still rolling with me. You know, you just add a little bit of water to keep that thick paint from getting gross. But we're gonna go ahead and hit that strap there. You know, I figured red would be a pretty nice offset color compared to the white of the skin or the green of the armor, kind of similar to what we were doing with the loincloth there. We're just going to take our time, be nice and neat, to try to not get on that skin tone, and wrap this this little sash up pretty nicely. Moving to our final step of the head, we're going to be doing a mixture of Vulpus Pink and Gulliman Flesh. I would do a 75% Vulpus Pink and a 25% Gulliman Flesh for more of a pink color. Again, like I said, it's supposed to be a dead skin, but there's always some like rotty pinks in there maybe. I think it looks really awesome, especially because he does have some steel implants, it looks, on the skull. So it really falls into those recesses, brings those details out, as you can see. And here comes another very large step, and that's to do our silvers. A lot of silver on this model, one of which being the entire gun, aside from the rear tube there. The little pin that's holding the grenade head to the stick, probably the pin to the spoon. A lot of the power pack features, the tubes there, the actual fans and such, as well as he has a little charm down there over his loincloth, among other places. So just be diligent, pick out all those spots you know you want silver, and just give it a once or twice over. Using my absolute beater brush there. I hate wasting paint, and that's the brush I use to load the paint and mix it with water on my wet palette there. But something about it, I just cannot waste paint. Just be mindful of those silver parts there. You don't want any overspill. It's kind of a pain in the ass to do base coating over a metallic portion, just because those metal flakes get everywhere. You're going to require a lot of coats. So just be as diligent as possible getting that metallic on there, being very precise, taking your time. As I mentioned before, I believe these are Mark II pattern armor. I think originally maybe 4. I don't know, but these little vents that are on the back of the shins there, the calves, I should say, I think they do well with silver. So I'm going to give it a nice coat of silver. We'll hit it with a good wash over, kind of bring it down once again. This could be any metallic color you'd like, or a solid black. That probably look just as good. And just like that, our major metallic is complete. We're going to be moving on to our next little accessory metallic color, which is the Balthazar Gold. Different from the gold we used for the trim. It's a little darker in nature, but he's got this little Nurgle logo tri-skull on his forearm there, his trigger finger hand, and we're going to just go ahead and do a few even coats on there, as well as the little charm of the fly that's hanging off of his belt. Just gives it a little bit of a different flair, breaks it up. These can be any colors you like, but as if I'm going with a lot of metallics and they are attached to metallic things, I choose this color. And we begin our almost final step. This is like one of the last chapters. When I start getting into full model shades, I get excited because it's all coming together. And this is going to be, go figure, a massive Nuln Oil dunk on that loincloth there. Looks really good. Dries really well. It's Nuln Oil, the most sold paint that Games Workshop creates. Looks good regardless of whatever you toss it on. That's why they call it liquid talent. Mortarion Grime is the other shade I'm going to use, and like I mentioned before, the tree that's coming out of his arm looks pretty neat. Again, it's very, very subtle. You have to kind of pick up the model in the light, but it's there if you're looking for it. I don't expect people to pop this detail out, but it looks pretty neat, and I want it there, so I'm going to do it. Again, being very heavy on the application. Neatness is not a concept when it comes to the Death Guard. And finally, our all-encompassing Agrax Earthshade. This just transforms the model. A second coat of it. It doesn't dilute any details. It doesn't take away from anything. It looks fantastic. Just watch this transformation in real time and enjoy. And there we go. He's drying up, and it'll really take down that glossy finish as it continues to dry. A lot of that's just the moisture of the paint. But there we go. Looks awesome. And as you saw in that clip, that was all real time, not sped up. Be fast. Let it pull up in some places. Soak it up in others. Like I mentioned, there's no neatness in the Death Guard, and this doesn't need to be any different. Revisiting Corvus Black on our palette. We're going to go ahead and hit that little rear gun tube there. Again, this could be anything. Even a metallic would probably look good, but I figured a Corvus Black, which is more of a rubber matted black, would look pretty neat, and contrast to the shinier, gross, wet nature of the armor panel behind it. Moving on to our gun wash, I use Rattling Grime, which is a black-brown wash color. Looks absolutely fantastic on this Iron Warrior steel. And as it dries, it kind of gives it a sooty, carbon-blocked look, which goes good on any gun, within any chapter you choose. I will die on that hill. That's what I love. And while that gun is drying, we're going to move on to the optional section here, which is adding a little bit of blood for the blood god to that grenade head. Again, if I can go back in time, I'd probably not do this, but it's preference. You could slobber this entire guy with blood and it would make sense, but it's just preference there. And the good old Typhus Corrosion. And we're going to slobber this all over his gun here. You could do it all over the armor. I have done that with other Death Guard models, but in this case, I wanted to keep his armor kind of clean from corrosion and just kind of focus on the gun. I would recommend sticking to the steel portions of the armor for that wash there. And Ryza Rust. This is where you really get the corrosion, bringer upper. And you just kind of dry brush that orange right over any of those corroded parts, and it really brings out that nice orange rust look. So just load up that dry brush, pop off the excess. You can go ahead and scoop up from that little pile on your paper there. And it looks quite bright, but dries quite dark. So don't be afraid if it kind of looks a little too bright for your liking initially. And there we go. This is your Death Guard. Inspired by the box. I absolutely love it. These guys are a blast to paint up, and the sky is the limit with details. You can go as deep or as little, and it doesn't matter. Quick, easy, a good full day painting project that anyone will appreciate and anyone will enjoy doing. Thank you all for watching very much. I appreciate it a ton, and I look forward to painting another model with y'all in the future. Take care.